embracing looking like a fool for Christ. Like in this journey, on this walk with God, you have to embrace looking like a crazy person to everyone else. And that's just reality, family. Because God's way and world's way are vastly different. And when it looks the same, you know you're not walking right. Because God's way and world's way are very, very different. And I was just explaining this to somebody the other day. If there is no gray. We create gray and the world is black and white. If you're moving to impress world, that's world's way. You're moving to impress God, that's God's way. We cannot serve two masters. There's only one or the other. It really is that cut and dry. And I know that I even lived in a level of deception with that where, and I still struggle with, there's a part of me that wants to be impressive to the world. There's a part of me that wants to be affirmed or validated by the world. There's a part of me that I battle with. There's a reason why the Bible says you have to put your flesh to death every day, because you do, because there's going to be parts of you that no matter how redeemed you may feel you are, that's always going to come up. And so a couple weeks ago, y'all, I was going through a situation and I really felt crazy. I really felt like I was, God is calling me to do some things that are completely out of the box. And I was like, I even felt the need to qualify what I was doing. I'm like, I feel like I don't know what God's doing. I don't know. And like, it's out of the box stuff. Okay. He really is doing it with your girl. Okay. But I'm like, you know what? God knows. And I have a coach, and I shout out to Coach Nicole. But in this process, Coach knows, like, I'm going to be obedient. Like, I might say a little something. I might do this and the third, but I'm going to be obedient because ultimately I value this connection that I have with God. And I know a lot of people may be looking at me like, Sam, it just looks like it's hard. It looks like it's taxing. It looks like this. I will tell you this. I've never had such peace in my life. I will not lie to you and say there hasn't been tests. There hasn't been trials. There hasn't been moments of breakdown in this. But in that, even in those instances, the connection that I have with God far supersedes anything I've ever experienced in my life. And if anybody ever fixes their mouth to tell me that doing this walk with God is boring, I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. You're wrong. Because this walk with God has been nothing but an adventure for me. I mean, an absolute adventure for me, which is why I had the Curious Georgina one thing. That was a good title, but I really do feel like I look like a fool and I'm okay with it. That's probably what I'm going to call it. I look like a fool and I'm okay with it. Like, I'm okay. And so anyway, we're going to get into that. But as I was going through this process, I saw this sermon by Stephanie Aki Okafor, who, y'all, if you have not watched her stuff, if you have not watched her content, she has been tremendous in encouraging me in moments because she is speaking about this walk and she's walking heavy. Okay. She's walking heavy. And if any of you guys are walking heavy with me, you know that there are things that God calls you to that absolutely, on one hand, it just doesn't make sense, number one, to you as a mere mortal, as a mere human being. But number two, it makes you uncomfortable. And I've had to battle like this, even today before this particular life, I've had to battle with myself on directions that God has called me to. Like, there's ways that God has called me to sow into other people. It makes me uncomfortable. Like, how much, like, I know that if I feel comfortable with my giving, I'm not giving enough. I know that might sound crazy to you, but I know based upon my journey with God that if I am not giving to a place where I feel uncomfortable, I'm not giving enough. And so I give to that extent. I know that with my walk with God that there may be things he asked me to give away. There may be things he asked me to do. And what we can fall into the trap of is trying to make it make sense to other people. Okay. And that actually limits you because where God is taking you and where God is drawing you to more than likely, if you're watching my channel, you're the first one in your family to do it. You're the first one in your family to want to do it this way. You are meant to be a generational curse breaker. You are meant to do it a different way. There are people that I've heard that say the generational curse thing doesn't, it's not true, it's not real. My mother was just on the phone with me and she was telling me how there are certain things in her life that line up with mine. Decisions that I made that happened somehow at the same time. And what a coincidence. No, it's not a coincidence. And I said to her on the phone, like, I'm not proud of that. That's a generational spirit. I don't want to continue this. I never saw it like that. But why am I making the same decisions at the same time you making decisions? Why am I moving in this way? It's time for me to stop. It's time for me to see the pattern and do something different. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so I come to you now, y'all, because a lot of times we find ourselves trying to convince our friends and tell our homeboys and homegirls what we got going on or what God is telling us. Like you might be a guy that's watching me and God may be speaking to you about a wife, right? And all your friends is like, hot boy summer, turn up, let's go Miami, what's up? And you're like, no, like, where's my Esther? Forget these ragamuffins. I want my day one. I want my ride or die. Forget all these girls that I don't know what their motivations are. I want her, man. Forget all that. And they may be looking at you like, bro, what's up? Like, you good? Like, what'd you eat this morning? You all right? You might be a woman that say, where my Boaz at? I'm not going to be out here hot girl summering it up. I'm not going to be out here in these streets going to these beach parties and these rooftops and showing your bikini body off. You said no. No, Lord. I'm going to be consecrated. I'm going to be waiting on my man, okay? I'm not going to be just out here showing the world and doing these things and going on random dates. I'm waiting on the man that God has for me. When God gives me authorization, I move. That's not world's way. And that way looks different to people that are living according to the world's way. And what happens is, family, is that because world's way and like culture's way, should I say, is so mainstream, it makes you feel like you're doing the wrong thing when you're actually doing the right thing. That when God calls you out of a relationship, you do it. When God calls you out of a job, you do it. When God calls you out of these things, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody. I literally had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, I actually don't care. I actually don't care whether or not y'all like it or don't. I actually don't care if you agree with me or not. What I see is that God's way works. So if you think that I'm crazy because I'm going so heavy and I'm walking so heavy and I'm doing this thing, I understand you. I might not be the person for you. That's fine. But there are people that will tell me like, well, Sam, are you afraid that you're not going to attract, a guy because you're so strong in your faith and, that the whole Christian thing might throw some men off. But if a man's thrown off by my faith, then he's not my man. I actually have, and just being just transparent, there's been more men that approach me for real being in this walk than men that haven't. Because they're like, oh no, she's actually a wife. She's actually coming across to me as a woman who is disciplined, a woman who has morality, a woman who holds herself accountable to God. She's giving more wife than culture's way. And I know a lot of that might not be popular to a lot of women, but I'm saying the truth that when we out here twerking and working, sometimes men, they're in the DMs, but they're not necessarily putting you in the wife category. I'm sorry, beloved. They be looking at you like, you know what? She'd be fun for Saturday. She'd be fun for Saturday. That'd be great. Saturday night, yeah, she the one. Sunday morning, Sunday at 3 a.m., but Saturday night, for sure. And that's what I know I'm making a lot of jokes to you guys, but again, we gotten so accustomed to trying to make what we do make sense to culture but we forget, we neglect to see how broken culture is. We neglect to see how much that don't make sense, how much that ain't working. And so, and I've seen it in my own family. Yes, y'all do it a certain way, but the way y'all been doing it, I actually don't want what y'all want. I actually don't want what y'all have. I actually want to do it a way that honors God. I really do want God's stamp of approval. I love this connection that I have with my creator, that I can hear him the way that I've been hearing him, and I can see him move the way I've been seeing him move. Because family, let me tell you something. Yes, you've seen me go through broken periods. You've seen me go through times of consecration and being by myself, and God really speaking to me about what kind of woman and how I need to represent myself, and the kind of man that he brings to me. That I said this last time, homie, don't play that. And I told you before, I like it. I'm like, okay, God, that's what I pray for. Fine. I like that, homie, don't play that. I don't play it either. I let him know I don't play that either. We can both not play it together. We'll play together. How about that? He probably watching me now like she is absolutely insane, but I love it. Good. But again, me saying God telling me to do something different for a man I've never met before, or maybe I've met and we're not connected in that way. That might be like, well, he's not even your man yet. You're not gonna still date. You're not gonna still. These guys are saying this, that, and the third. They're calling. They're trying to call you. They're trying to do this. Oh, this guy. I went somewhere like, hey, all these guys are trying to talk to you. God has me with my man. I am not messing with my man. Like when God gives me authorization, I'm going to my man. Forget these other men. They're not for me. There's a man that God has for me, and I'm not talking to anybody but him. Is Jesus my daddy, my brother, and then my man. That's it. You know, because again, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in all this, but I'm giving you guys examples of areas where people we want to make it make sense. We want to make God's way make sense, but it doesn't make sense. It's not going to make sense, especially to culture, because now you are training yourself to hear God, and God don't make sense to us. He's not supposed to make sense to us. Family, today I told you guys I wake up at certain times, and God has these things, and I am curious, Georgina. Like I really, really do try to figure out what God is telling me all the time, and I never know. Like there might, well, no, it's not true. I have an idea. I have an understanding. I never know how it's going to play out. It never, like he's going to give me warnings and promptings, but I never actually know. Like, so you'll see me in the morning. Like if you're a fly on my wall, I wake up at a certain time in the morning. God wakes me up. I look up that time. I go back when I look at the time that I go to pray when he wakes me up, and when I hit the bed. So meaning that even if I have to go to the restroom after I pray, I only look at the time that I get back in the bed. And I look up those times, and you will see me, if you're a fly on my wall, try to figure it out. And that's and God just now, right before I came on, I saw and I kept seeing a number. Y'all, literally, I was in my workout, right? I was working out today. And there was a number that was spray painted on the garbage can. And I've seen this number over and over again. Now it's spray painted on the garbage can that I've never seen before. Okay. And so I look at the number says unfathomable, unsearchable, unfathomable, unsearchable, untraceable. And I knew exactly what God was saying to me. He's like, you keep trying to figure me out. You ain't gonna figure me out. I'm God. Like you keep trying to play Blue's Clues with me. And I know you enjoy this, but that's actually stressing you out. You would just take it as, yay, something good is coming, versus why, when. Let me put the clues together to see if this is when God is going to do it. God's like, I'm bigger than you. I'm wiser than you. I'm smarter than you. I know exactly how I'm going about it.